What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Dude Hunt Show. Today is May 14th, 2021. In this video, I am live on YouTube. And, this recently NFL schedule came out Wednesday night. Today is Friday afternoon. I want to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals schedule release, some games they might win, some games. It'll be really interesting to see, how the Bengals play out this season. And, I actually did a video talking about the NFL schedule in general yesterday. Make sure to check that out. I talked about some of the best games from week 1 to week 18. Something interesting about this season. There are 17 games this year instead of, 16. This is the most games ever, NFL history in the regular season. There's so much to look forward to, especially as Bengal fans. Burrow's coming back from injury. We got Jamar Chase. We have so many weapons on offense. We have an improved offensive line. And this schedule is very, very interesting. You look at some of the schedules. According to last season's records, it has a lot to do with last season's records. But the way the Bengals schedule is this year, they actually have, I believe, the 5th or 6th hardest schedule in the entire league. I really do not think that's the case. There are some games that are very difficult. There's a few games, in my opinion, I think are a lot tougher. There's a few games who I think is kind of a lot easier than some people think. I mentioned teams who I think is a lot tougher than people think. Go ahead and start off here in week 1. The Minnesota Vikings. With the Minnesota Vikings, the Bengals are 6-7 all time against the Minnesota Vikings. The last meeting was in 2017. The Bengals got humiliated in Minnesota, losing 34-7. They were 7-9 last season. I really think the Vikings are going to have a breakout year. Last season, the team who I thought was going to be great was the Broncos. Obviously that did not happen. They were last in the AFC West. But, you look at the Vikings stats, I would not be shocked at all if they're in playoff contention. And I kind of said it on my video yesterday. I would not be shocked one bit if the Vikings ended up winning the NFC North. I know that sounds crazy, but Kirk Cousins had an extremely underrated year last season, having over 30 passing touchdowns and over 4,200 passing yards. Dalvin Cook nearly averaged 140 yards a game. Statistically, Justin Jefferson was the best rookie receiver ever last season. Adam Thielen had 14 receiving touchdowns. Their main issue last season was their defense. Former Bengals defense coordinator Mike Zimmer is their head coach. Zimmer will not let Minnesota's defense be that bad again. They had a fantastic draft. Definitely one of the best drafts, in my opinion. I've seen some people say, the Bengals, they're going to start 3-0, 4-0, whatever, being biased. Let's just start the week 1 first. This is not an easy win by any means. If I'm looking at 32 teams right now, if I'm picking one team who's going to have a breakout year and surprise people, I'm definitely taking the Minnesota Vikings. I know, not the Bengal fans expect us to do good. I think we will be improved from my 4-win team last season. But I'm really interested to see the Vikings. This is a very interesting game. And I think if we win this can kind of show us, how we are going to be in the 2021 season. As we continue here in week 2, this is our first road game of the 2021 NFL season. This game is very interesting because, it's the Bears. The Bears signed Andy Dalton in the offseason. We could be playing against Andy Dalton again like we did last year when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. Or we could be playing against the rookie quarterback in Justin Fields from Ohio State, who lots of people, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but some Ohio State fans wanted us to take Chase Young and just try to get Justin Fields with this year's pick. But, we are 6-5 all time against the Bears. The last time we played the Bears was in 2017. We got absolutely humiliated, losing 7-33. I remember that game like it was yesterday. We made Mitch Trubisky look like he was freaking Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady combined. We made him look like he was an MVP. And aside from that game, he was horrible last season. The Bears were 8-8 last season, sneaking into the playoffs just because the NFC was really, really bad. I do think we can win this game here, regardless of Justin Fields is starting, Dalton starting, or even Nick Foles. I feel comfortable that we can win this game. The Bears, they have Allen Robinson, have Montgomery, they have a couple of nice pieces on offense. But that's really about it. They do have a nice defense, But I don't. I think our offense can kind of outpower Chicago's defense here in week 2. As we continue here in week 3, if you're just now tuning in, I'm doing I'm live on YouTube doing a breakdown of the Cincinnati Bengals schedule. We're going by week, each game talking about we can win it. Talking about what's to look forward to in the 2021 NFL season. And week 3, this is the game that's already circled on my calendar. Heading into the season, when the schedule comes out, the games I always care about the most are the Steelers. If we go 2-14, but if both those wins against the Steelers, I'm satisfied with it. Obviously, I don't want us to go 2-14, but if we're going to have wins, I want it to be against the Steelers. Last season we had a miracle win on Monday Night Football. Nobody expected them to win, including myself. I remember messaging somebody before the game. I thought we were going to lose by 30 or 40. Definitely one of the bigger wins, in my opinion, in franchise history. We are 36-67 all time against the Steelers. We won that game on Monday Night Football last season, 27-17, without Joe Burrow. Commander Finley, Ryan Finley is no longer with us. We traded him to the Houston Texans, but he did us one final favor in helping us beat Pittsburgh. I really think we can beat Pittsburgh again this season, but I would not be surprised if we lost this game. As much as I'm confident and we'll beat Pittsburgh once this season, I do not feel confident that we can sweep the Steelers. I feel much more confident that we can beat them at home. It seems like, regardless of who we play, I feel much more comfortable when we play a team at home rather than away. Like we played the Browns this season, obviously home and away. But if I'm picking a game, if we can beat the Browns, I'm definitely going to pick the game that we are home because we're a much, much better home team than the away team. We just had our freaking first a road win against the Texans. It was our first road win last season in over 2 years. But this Pittsburgh game, to me, it's really interesting. I would not be shocked if we lost this, though. But at the same time, I would not be absolutely shocked if we won either. Very excited for this game in week 3. As we continue here in week 4, I'm really, really excited about this one. Week 4 is our only primetime game of the season. It happens to be Thursday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Former number 1 pick, Joe Burrow from last season, and number 1 pick this year, and Trevor Lawrence this season from Clemson. These are 2 teams who have very talented young offenses and teams in general who I think have potential to be very nice teams in the future. And we are 10-13 against the Jaguars all the time. Our last meeting with the Jaguars, we actually defeated them last year 33-25. That was Mixon's phenomenal game last season. He did not play many games due to a season-ending injury. But I remember that game. He was just phenomenal. He had tons of fantasy points on my team last season. This is a winnable game. There's a couple games every year where you kind of look at there's a possibility we might get upset and lose that game. Maybe an underdog win. There's a couple games as well. You look at the schedule. We might pull off an upset and have a game where we win. For instance, look at last season, we had an upset win over the Titans, and we had an upset win over the Steelers on Monday Night Football. The Jacksonville game, I do not think is as easy as people think. I do think we can pull this off, but the Jaguars roster is a lot better than people think. I think they're going to be a nice team in a year or two. I'm very excited to see this matchup between Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. It's kind of a rematch in the national championship game a couple years ago. 2 former number 1 picks. Lots of people say that Trevor Lawrence was a fantastic quarterback prospect, way better than Joe Burrow. I really don't see that at all. But I'm really excited for Lawrence against Burrow here in week 4. So continue here in week 5. This game is really interesting. I'm really hoping to go this game only if Aaron Rodgers ends up playing, because without Rodgers, the Packers are absolutely nothing. If Rodgers is not the starting quarterback in week 5 here for the Packers, mark this down, we will win. Not trying to be overconfident, but the Packers, look it up, they are absolutely historically bad without Aaron Rodgers. They have, I would say, Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams. You can make a case that's the best quarterback, running back, and wide receiver trio in the NFL. Take those three guys away, they have nothing on offense. They lost the best offensive lineman free agent in free agency, and Corey Linsley signing with the Chargers. Their offensive line is not nearly as good as it was. Their defense is inconsistent. I think this is a possible win. Like I just said a couple minutes ago, there's a couple games you kind of look at. Maybe we could pull off an upset. I think this is one where we can maybe pull off an upset. Because if you stop Rodgers, you're going to win. It's that simple. And I know that's a lot easier said than done because Aaron Rodgers had a phenomenal season last year, ended up winning the MVP. But their defense is okay, nothing great. I think this could be kind of one of those situations, kind of like last year with the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. Kind of be a shootout. Whoever has the ball last will end up winning in this game. And, the Packers, it's surprisingly, you look at the Packers, they're one of the most historic NFL franchises. We actually have a better record than them all time. We are 7-6. Our last meeting was in that 2017 game where, we had a new offense coordinator in that game. We had a 14-0 lead. And then in Bengals fashion, we blew it. We ended up losing 24-27 in overtime. The Packers were 13-3 last season. But it's really interesting because, the Packers, the last 2 years, especially with their new head coach, Matt LaFleur, it's just really weird that they do not seem like a 13-win team. They've had back-to-back years where they've had 13 wins. And the only reason they were really good last season was because of Rodgers' historical great season. If you really look at the year prior, something to me that really stands out, as a 13-win team in 2019, had the worst point differential for a team who had at least 13 wins in the last 30 years. The Packers have had some great wins the past 2 years. They have one of the best records in the NFL the past 2 years. But they've got lucky in some games. They've had lots of one-possession games, just barely squeaking by. We're kind of known, especially in the Zach Taylor era, to just lose by one possession. I would not be shocked if we upset the Green Bay Packers here in Week 5. As we continue here in Week 6, we're just tuning in. I'm doing a Bengals breakdown, going by the schedule week by week, talking about the games here. And there's so many games to look forward to. And of all the games here in our 17-game schedule, this is the first year ever the NFL is having 17 games in the regular season. Week 6, in my opinion, is the one I would say is the absolute easiest one. If I'm picking one game out of this entire schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals that we're going to win, it's going to be Week 6 against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. You look at the Detroit Lions roster, it is complete crap. You can make a case it's the worst roster in the NFL. I would say them and the Houston Texans are debatable. But, the Lions actually traded away Matthew Stafford in free agency to the Rams. They got Jared Goff in return. That's a major downgrade. Matthew Stafford's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. Goff's okay, but the Lions, they lost Kenny Galladay to the Giants, and they lost Marvin Jones to the Jaguars. They really have nobody. I mean, like I just said, they easily have the worst roster in the league. The Bengals are 9-3 against the Lions all the time. The last meeting, the Bengals actually won 26-17. And the Lions were 5-11 last season. As crazy as it sounds, and as bad as the Lions roster is, the Lions actually had a better record than the Bengals last season. That is just absolutely crazy to think. But I definitely see a win here in Week 6. We continue here in Week 7. This is one of the more difficult games on the schedule. Playing at Baltimore. Playing Baltimore is tough, but playing in Baltimore is just much more tougher. All time, Baltimore leads the series 23-27. To close out the year last season, in our final game of the season, they humiliated us at home, 38-3. That was definitely such an embarrassing way to end the season. Baltimore was 11-5 last year, winning the AFC North. I do not think the Baltimore Ravens are going to be as good this year as people think. I know they had some nice receivers they drafted in the draft, like Rashawn Bateman, who I think is probably the most underrated receiver out of those top receivers in the first round. And they also drafted Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State in the mid-rounds, which I thought was a phenomenal pick as well. But you really look, they lost some of their guys on defense. They no longer have Mark Ingram, but they still have J.K. Dobbins and lots of running backs, a huge running back committee because they always run the ball. And with us, a DJ Reader, he's a run stuffer coming back from season-ending injury. Our defense is finally getting developed. We got Shelvin in the draft. He's kind of a DJ Reader replica. Very similar style of play. Big guy who can open some gaps to make some tackles for loss. I do not think we'll win this game, but I would not be surprised if it would be close. We've had a couple games. Not last season when we played Baltimore last season. It was just pitiful, both those games. But our losses to Baltimore the last few years, aside from last season, we've had some close games that we could have won with better quarterback play, and we were close to beating them with Dalton and Finley. With Dalton, not Finley. But the Ravens are definitely one of the most toughest games here on our 17-game schedule. I really, really doubt that we will end up winning here in Week 7. But who knows? I'm very interested to see this matchup here in Week 7. To continue here in Week 8, we play the New York Jets. I'm really excited for this one. Lots of people are talking about Trevor Lawrence against Joe Burrow on Thursday Night Football on Week 4. It's a very intriguing matchup. But I'm really excited to see Zach Wilson against Joe Burrow. With the quarterback prospects in the draft this season, Zach Wilson was actually my quarterback number 1 instead of Trevor Lawrence. The quarterbacks the last 2 seasons, the best quarterback prospects in my opinion, are Joe Burrow and Zach Wilson. I'm very excited for this game. The Jets have a better roster than people think. They got Carl Lawson, our edge rusher in free agency. They had a pretty nice draft, getting some weapons for Wilson, getting an offensive line for him. Something they did not really do with Sam Darnold during his time in New York. And we are 10-17 all time against the Jets. The Jets were 2-14 last season. Our last time we played the Jets, we won 22-6 in 2019. Was fortunate enough to actually go to that game. That was actually the Bengals' first win in 2019. Remember, that was Dalton's first game, back after he was benched. He broke the record for, I believe, completions, and it happened to be Zach Taylor's first win as a NFL head coach. Very excited for this one. This is a very intriguing one. I cannot wait to see these two quarterbacks played out with Zach Wilson and Joe Burrow. To continue here in Week 9, the Bengals play against the Browns. I kind of mentioned I feel much more comfortable, playing division rivals at home than away. I feel like everybody should. The Bengals are a completely better team at home than away. I would not be surprised if we beat the Browns. We will not sweep them. We will not sweep the Browns, but I wouldn't be shocked if we pull off an upset one of our 2 games against them. But if we were to beat the Browns one of our 2 games against Cleveland, this game here in Week 9 will be the one we beat them. Because, playing in the dog pound, playing in Cleveland, Cleveland has the best roster in the AFC. I know some Bengal fans aren't going to admit it because, they're biased, but I try my best not to be biased. And, the Browns have the best roster in the AFC. They have a top 5 roster easy in the entire NFL. They had some great additions in free agency. They arguably had the best draft, up there with the Vikings. And we are actually 51-44 all time against the Browns. Last season, the Browns were 11-5, made to the postseason, defeated the Steelers in the playoffs, had their first playoff win over a decade. Our last meeting between them last year, we ended up losing in heartbreak fashion, like Bengals fashion, basically. We ended up losing 34-37. The Browns, in my opinion, I know lots of people continue to say the Ravens are the team to beat in the AFC North. Do not understand that at all. I really believe the Browns are the best team in the AFC North this season. They are the team to beat. And I'm really interested to see this matchup, Week 9, the Battle of Ohio between the Browns and the Bengals. Week 10, we have a bye here. I kind of like the byes here in the middle of the season. Not too early, not too late. Just right in between the year. I hate it when teams have a bye week in like week 4 or 5 because you don't really have enough rest and then you're playing like 12 games straight. But week 11, as we continue here, the Bengals go to Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Bengals are 11-21 all time against the Raiders. Last season, the Raiders were 8-8, and the last time we played the Raiders was in 2019. We ended up losing 10-17. I believe that happened to be one of Finley's starts where he went 0-3. I think this is definitely a winnable game. You look at the Raiders, they have some nice pieces, but Carr, you have a nice backfield with Kenyon Drake and Jacobs. Darren Waller is a top 3 tight end. Their draft, getting Alex Leatherwood at 17 was just absolutely ridiculous. They have an okay team. They're the definition of average, in my opinion. They're that team. The Raiders are the team who year in year out are going to be 7-9, 8-8, something like that. But with the season being 17 games now, it's like impossible to be a 500 record. I think this is definitely a winnable game here for the Bengals. I would be kind of surprised if we did end up losing here because you look at our roster compared to the Raiders, we have a much better roster. And it's just another team who had a much better record than us last season. I know, the Joe Burrow injury, really cost us some games, but, we still don't really have many games. One, with Burrow's injury heading into that Washington game, we only had 2 wins on the year. And, the Raiders had double the wins of us last season. Really interested to see this Raiders game in Week 11. Week 12, Steelers at home. Probably my favorite game of the year. Really hoping to go to this one. Obviously the Steelers won in the AFC North. I believe they started off 11-0, and then they played like complete crap, which was absolutely awesome to see. Last season, I made a really stupid hot take. I said the Steelers would finish last in the AFC North. And as crazy as that sounds, that was actually not even my worst crazy take of last season. But, as the season progressed in the last 4 or 5 games, the Jets, who had the 2nd pick overall, and the Bengals, the last 4 weeks, the Jets and the Bengals both have better records than the Steelers did. The last 4 or 5 weeks was kind of how I expected the Steelers to play the whole season last season. I'm expecting the Steelers to not be nearly as good. I really think the Steelers will be last in the AFC North. If we would end up beating the Steelers here, I think we would end up beating the Steelers here this season. I definitely think it would be Week 12 and not our game earlier in the season. It's 100 times harder to beat the Steelers on the road. And like I said, we are a horrible team on the road. Beating the Texans in December was our first road win since 2018 against the Falcons. That 4th quarter comeback game with Dalton icing the green. That game was awesome. That was one of those. That was one of the best games watching the past couple of years because it just went back and forth, and we actually, ended up winning on the 4th last-minute drive by Dalton, which is something we rarely did. But I think if we beat Pittsburgh, it will be here Week 12 in an earlier time. I definitely could see us beating Pittsburgh here. I would be shocked if we get swept by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know I said that last season, and when Burrow went down, I was not think we would win. But I'm really excited for Week 12 here with the Steelers. I think we will pull off a win. I know lots of people like from ESPN and NFL Network, all those people said it's an upset win. We beat the Steelers here in Week 12 at home. I don't think it's an upset because at this point in the season, I think we're honestly going to have a better record than the Steelers. It's really interesting to see. Cannot wait for that game in Week 12. Definitely probably my favorite game of the year. So we continue here in Week 13. Another game I cannot wait to see is the Bengals hosting the LA Chargers. Last season, Week 1 started off. The Bengals lost to the Chargers 13-16. First there was that horrible offensive pass interference call by AJ Green. And then to finish off the game, Brandon Bullock misses that field goal to potentially go to overtime. Justin Herbert against Joe Burrow. I think that's, everybody wants to see that. Lots of people think Herbert's better than Burrow. I would say for the most part, it seems like the only people who actually believe Burrow is better than Herbert is Bengal fans. And it's not because we're being biased. We just honestly believe Burrow is better than Herbert. One thing I would say though, Herbert had arguably the best rookie season ever last season, despite not starting, all 16 games. The Chargers actually had a worse offensive line last year than the Bengals. They have a much improved offensive line. Like I said earlier, the Chargers had the best free agency signing in the entire offseason. And signing Green Bay Packers center Corey Linsley. He was one of the best offensive linemen according to PFF. And also according to PFF, last year the Chargers did not have a single offensive lineman have a grading higher than a 66 overall. And they also got Rashawn Slater at 13. In my opinion, that's arguably the best pick in the entire NFL draft. Phenomenal pick there. I'm really excited for this game. The Chargers ended up going 7-9 on the year. They ended up winning their last 4 games on the year. They ended the year on a really nice hot streak. Except for this one, would not be surprised if we ended up losing though. Honestly, I think we would. They look really, really good. They have Eckler coming back from an injury. They had a nice draft. They made improvements pretty much everywhere in their team. They did lose Hunter Henry, but they got some help at tight end in the draft. Interested to see. Cannot wait for this Burrow and Herbert matchup here in Week 13. If you're just tuning in, I'm breaking down each Cincinnati Bengals game and talking about what our record could be. Talking about the matchup and everything like that. Live on YouTube, like pretty much every single Bengals video I do for that part. Let's continue here in Week 14. The Bengals play the San Francisco 49ers. I'm interested in this one. Last time we played the 49ers was Week 2 of the 2019 season. We lost to the Seahawks by 1 possession. Dalton throws for 400 yards, and kind of looks promising. The following week, we absolutely get humiliated by the 49ers, giving up over 40 points. Lots of people were questioning, how did we play so bad? At that time in Week 2, we didn't realize how good the 49ers were going to be. Actually that year, they ended up playing in the Super Bowl. But that was just really, really bad. Last season, the 49ers finished 6-10. And, that's an under 500 record. That's not good. But considering all the injuries the 49ers had, that's actually pretty nice. Garoppolo was hurt. Rich Sherman was hurt. I know he's no longer on the team, but, he was hurt a lot last season. George Kittle was hurt. They had lots of running backs injured as well. With a fully healthy team now, I'm really interested to see if Trey Lance will be starting this game here. Depending how the 49ers do, I'm interested to see, if they're going to start Garoppolo or let's say if Garoppolo starts off and they go off like 6-2 or something like that. Do they stick with Garoppolo or they, take the chance on Trey Lance? Very interested in this one. I do not think we won this game. Look at some of the games on here. I definitely think this is one of the most toughest games here on our 2021 schedule. I know it's at home, and I know that is a little bit different than playing on the road. But the 49ers, this roster and their talent, it's just so tough to beat them here in Week 14. Continue here in Week 15. We play at the Denver Broncos. I mentioned, there's a couple games who I really think, most Bengal fans think, oh, that's an easy win, or, we're easily going to beat them. Bengals fans being biased, like pretty much they always are. I definitely think this is a possible upset loss here. You look at the Broncos' young offense. They have Melvin Gordon. I know he's not in a rookie contract, but, they traded up to get Javonte Williams, a running back from North Carolina, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, AJ Hamler, Tyree Cleveland, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, Albert O, the tight end from Missouri. They have an okay offensive line. They did have some injuries. They lost James due to an injury. They have a decent defense. Von Miller's coming back from an injury. Bradley Chubb, who's on a rookie contract. Simmons is one of the best safeties in the NFL, but he's not number one because that's, obviously Jesse Bates. But I really think this is a possible loss. Playing at Mile High Stadium is a lot more tougher than playing at Paul Brown Stadium. The Broncos finished 5-11 last season. Drew Lock, he was injured some. He's very inconsistent. They were last in the AFC West. The last time we played the Denver Broncos was in 2018. We ended up losing 10-24. I really think the Broncos I mean, I think they might pull off the upset here and beat us. I know Bengal fans won't probably admit to it, but Drew Lock, to me, last season I was really behind him, but he was so inconsistent with his injuries. If he's consistent this season, just average, I really believe the Broncos are a playoff caliber team because they have such an underrated roster. You look at the best young offenses with talent in the NFL. My opinion, the first two teams come to mind. This isn't in any order. I mean, you have the Bengals and you have the Broncos. I mean, those teams just are so underrated with talent. We have Mixon, T. Higgins, Boyd, Chase, Burrow, and the Broncos. Like I said, they have so many young offensive talented players as well. Very interested to see this game here. I know a lot of people will be surprised if they would lose. I would not be surprised one bit. This is a much, much more difficult game than people think. Very similar to that Week 1 game against the Vikings. Would not be shocked at all if they ended up losing there because the Vikings are a great team as well. As we continue here in Week 16, we play the Baltimore Ravens at home. Like I said, last season, our last game against them, we lost 38-3. They were 11-5 last season. Interested to see this one. I don't really think we'll beat Baltimore. I think we will be competitive. If we would beat Baltimore, it will be in Week 16. And, I think it would be much better for us to beat Baltimore in Week 16 earlier in the year because us getting the wins towards the end of the season could possibly, really be beneficial if we're close to a playoff spot. We're trying to creep into the playoffs, be really interested to see that. But this game here with Baltimore is just so tough. Last season we played great on defense. It's just our defense was on the field the whole freaking entire game. When playing against the Baltimore Ravens, I always say if we stop the run, you're going to win. We held Lamar Jackson to 3 rushing yards, but we ended up scoring 3 points. It was, well, we might have actually got shut out. I don't actually remember the score, but it was just absolutely pitiful. We couldn't do nothing on offense. If we stopped them at their own game, but we couldn't score at all because their defense was just so talented. They lost Matthew Judon to the Patriots in free agency. Like I said, obviously we have a better offensive line than we did last season. I'm interested to see with the Ravens. The Ravens are the one team in the division, in my opinion, who I do not think we will probably end up beating. But hopefully I'm wrong. Excited for this game here in Week 16. To continue here, we're just tuning in, doing a breakdown of the Bengals' recently released schedule. The schedule was released Wednesday night. Breaking down each week, talking about how the Bengals may go about each week. Week 17, in a normal year, this would be the last game of the season. But with the new announcement, the NFL will have 17 games each for each team this season. These last couple of games here are just so difficult. I mean, Week 16, we play the Ravens. Week 17, we play the Chiefs. Week 18, we play at the Browns. But the Chiefs here, this is probably going to be a loss. I don't even know why I said probably. This will be a loss. Our defense, it's getting better, but it's still inconsistent. But I do not trust our defense enough against the Chiefs' offense. With our offense and the Chiefs' offense, it'll be really fun to see because the Chiefs have the best offense in the NFL. Them and the Buccaneers. But you look at us, I wouldn't be surprised if we had one of the best offenses in the NFL in just a year or two because all the talent we have. I'm excited for this one. Our last matchup against the Chiefs was in 2018. That horrible Sunday night game. We lost 10-45. Dalton looked horrific like he always does in primetime. But this game here, I would probably go ahead and mark it a loss. I just really do not see us beating the Chiefs here in Week 17. Close out the Bengals schedule. Week 18 at Cleveland. This game is a must win, and it's not because it's a Battle of Ohio division team, everything like that. Rivalry. You have to win this game if you went even close to playoff contention. It's like some of these games. Obviously we played the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns twice. For us to be in playoff contention, we have to beat the Browns and the Steelers, both of them at least once. I think it is doable, but if we do not beat the Browns early in the season, I do not like our chances here in Week 18 at all because the Browns could be playing for a lot too, maybe winning the AFC North as well. Both our games last season against the Browns, were basically last minute finishes. There were only one possession games, and it kind of goes back to Zach Taylor, and it seems like all of our losses with Zach Taylor are one possession games. But both those against the Browns were just like one possession. We could have won either one. It's just really sucks how we ended up losing those games. But Cleveland here in Week 18 is very, very difficult. You have a lot to play for. Maybe a playoff spot. Who knows? It really depends how we do towards the end of the season. The Browns also have a lot and possibly winning the AFC North. So it's kind of the Bengals schedule breakdown. And when I break down schedules for each team, I always do it in kind of like a section. With by fours. And with this season, with their 17 games, it's just really different to see. There's going to be an uneven amount of games played this season. But when I look at schedules, I kind of go by how many games will they win in that section. So in Week 1, let's say they play Minnesota Vikings. Not being biased, I want to say that's a loss. I think the Vikings are the most underrated team going into the 2021 season. Wouldn't be surprised if we won. The Vikings are a lot better than people think. Would not be surprised one bit. The Vikings ended up winning the NFC North. Week 2, we play the Chicago Bears at Chicago. I do think we ended up going that game. So let's say 1-1. Week 3 at Pittsburgh. I don't like our chances at Pittsburgh. Wouldn't be surprised if we beat Pittsburgh maybe later in the year in Cincinnati. But at Pittsburgh, I do not trust us enough. So that'd be 1-2. Week 4, Thursday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars, our only primetime game of the season. I know lots of Bengal fans are complaining that we have so many primetime games, but other years people complain. Oh, excuse me. I know lots of Bengal fans are complaining that we only have one primetime game. But it's weird because in years prior, the Bengals fans complain that we have too many and we end up losing. It's just Bengal fans, but it seems that they complain about everything. But I see a win here in Jacksonville. I think it's a potential upset alert. We could lose, but I do see us winning there. So in that section, we're 2-2. Start off this other section, Green Bay Packers at home. This is interesting. Even if Aaron Rodgers plays, I like the possibility of us maybe upsetting the Packers. I want to be realistic, not biased. I want to have this a loss. But if I'm looking on our schedule this season, if I'm picking one upset game we will win, I'm going to say it'll be the Packers. But I'm going to say this is a loss to be more realistic and non-biased. So in that section, we are 0-1 and 2-3 overall. Week 6 at Detroit, that's a win. Really no explanation. The Lions just absolutely suck. So that's 3-3 overall. At Baltimore in Week 7, that's a loss in my opinion. Beating Baltimore is tough. Beating them at Baltimore is so more difficult. So that is 3-4 on the year. To close out this second section here, Week 8 we play at the New York Jets. This is one of those games who I think it's a small possibility we might end up losing. There's a couple of games who live our schedules, and throughout the years, there's always at 1 or 2 games that we always lose that we shouldn't. I think this could possibly be one of them. But I am going to have us winning here because I do think we will end up winning against the Jets, but would not be shocked if we would end up, maybe being upset. So that's 4-4 overall. As we head into the first section here in Week 9, we play the Cleveland Browns. I think we will beat the Browns once, but if we beat them, it's going to be at home. So that's 5-4 right there. So that's Week 9, 5-4. That's really great considering that schedule. Head into the bye week, and Week 10 is our bye week. We head into the bye week over 500. That is fantastic. These couple games here. There's some games right off the bye week that are very doable. So as we continue here, we play the Chargers in Las Vegas. I'm going to say that's a win. The Raiders are inconsistent. I like our chances against the Raiders because they're not a team who, even when they're consistent, they're not always going to put up tons of points. They're just easily one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL. So right there, I mean, we're 6-4 heading into Week 12. Not trying to be biased. I just really think there's some games we might end up winning. The Steelers Week 12, like I said, I think we'll beat the Steelers once. I think we'll beat the Browns once. But we will not sweep either team. I really like our chances here. I think we're going to beat them at home. Wouldn't be shocked if we ended up losing. But I do think we will beat Pittsburgh once and at home here. So 7-4. Not trying to be biased, but some of these games, you can make a case back and forth. But 7-4 heading into Week 13 against the Chargers. This is kind of where our losing streak ends. I know lots of Bengal fans might think we will beat the Chargers in Week 13, but I think the Chargers, they might have a better roster than us, but they have a better team in the fact, they won 4 straight games in the 2020 season. We had 4 wins the entire year. We have 6 wins with Zach Taylor in 2 years, and they nearly had as many as that to just close out the year. So right there, that is 7-5. Week 14, the 49ers. I just really don't like that game. I do not think we'll end up beating that game. That's probably one of about 2 or 3 games I just really do not think we'll win. So that is 7-6. Week 15 at the Denver Broncos. This is another game I would not be shocked if we, possibly could be upset. The Broncos are extremely underrated. I am going to have us win this one. That would be 8-6. We have 3 games left, and these games are so difficult. They really put, some of our most difficult games towards the last 3 games. Right here, we are, what are we? We are 8-6, I believe. 8-6. So we have 14 games. We have 3 games remaining. Our next game is the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think that's a win. So that's 8-7. Week 17, Chiefs at home. I do not like our chances there. So that's 8-8. The 3 games I really do not like us playing against are the Chiefs, the 49ers, and at Baltimore. Aside from any of those 3 games, I think it's possible we can beat any team. But those 3 games, I just do really not like us. Our chances in those. So we're 8-8. In a normal year, it's 500. But since there's 17 games this season, our final game, playing at Cleveland is just so crucial. Like I said, I do not think the Bengals will sweep the Browns or the Steelers. I do think we will beat each of those teams once. Since they already had the Bengals beating the Browns once, I had the Bengals losing here to the Browns. So to finish off the season, that's 8-9. That's not bad at all. With a first full year with Joe Burrow, basically it seems like a whole new offensive line. A lot of new players on defense and offense. A brand, Frank Pollard comes back, a new offensive line coach. To have 8 wins is pretty nice in a 17-game schedule. One thing I'm going to say about this schedule is, lots of Bengal fans are, very hopeful, very biased, and really excited for this upcoming season. I've seen lots of people say, we're going to win 8, 9, 10 games. That's not a guarantee. Look at how many games we have the past 2 years that are 1 possession. As much as I think it's possible we could have maybe a 7, 8 win season, possibly even 9. You kind of got to look at, we're going to have a couple of those games, just 1 play, something like that. We could be so much better. And that's kind of been the way the past couple of years. I know it seems like, with Joe Burrow coming back from an injury, getting Jamar Chase at 5, people are not talking about that Taylor's job enough. He has 6 wins in 2 years. If he does not get 7 wins this season, because last season they played 16 games. And I am going to kind of give him a pass there, with Joe Burrow being injured. But with the extra game, in a normal year, I would say 6. In 17 games, I'd say 7. If the Bengals do not win at least 7 games that Taylor absolutely has to go. I mean, this is. I know it's the first full year for Burrow. First like full year on the team. So many weapons, basically a brand new offensive line. So many new players. Facing offense and defense. 7 games is really realistic for the Bengals. It's not impossible by any means. I think it's likely. But if you were to tell me the Bengals cannot get 7 wins in a 17 game schedule, there's no reason Zach Taylor should still be on the team next season, and the Bengals cannot get at least 7 wins. He has 6 in 2 years. His first year was not really good. Lots of people were complaining. He would. They were purposely tanking. That was not the case. They just absolutely sucked. 2020. We only had 2 wins up until Joe Burrow got hurt in Washington. We had a couple of nice, surprise wins against the Titans with Burrow, and then against the Steelers and winning the football with Ryan Finley. But 7 wins, to me, in my opinion, is what the Bengals have to win this year for that Taylor to keep his job in Cincinnati. I'm very interested, very excited to see how this Bengal season plays out. So much to look forward to. I was talking to somebody the other day. You really look at our schedule, and all the teams we play at home. This is like the best year ever to get season tickets. I mean, we play the Vikings, who I said are going to be really good this year. We play Trevor Lawrence on Thursday Night Football with the return of Tim Tebow, our only primetime game of the year. I mean, you have first overall pick against first overall pick, Lawrence or Burrow. I mean, Heisman Trophy winner with Burrow and Tebow, but Tebow's not really playing quarterback. We got Rodgers at home. We have the Browns at home, or the Steelers at home. That's going to be a fun one. Herbert at home. The 49ers at home. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes all home. I mean, this is definitely the year to get Bengal tickets. So much things to look forward to in the Bengals 2021 schedule. Really excited about it. Really cannot wait for it. Kind of about that's it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would really, really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on Sports 2 Show.